All right, how's it going there, folks? Welcome back here to a Tuesday night. It is the Earthmaster here on this end of the microphone. Hope everyone's having a beautiful evening out there. About 10:05 p.m. here, California time. May 14th, 2024. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a 2.6 into the area of the Mediterranean. We did see a little bit of uptick out here across the globe today. We'll check this out here in just a minute, but I want to touch up on the hot topic of space weather activity right now, where we did see earlier today the largest solar flare of this solar cycle 25, with an X8.7. Some folks reporting an X8.8. I mean, that's pretty much about as close as it's going to get to an X8.8 right there. So take your pick. Either way, that's a pretty significant flare. It was not Earth-directed. Had that been Earth-directed, we'd probably see a pretty decent, although it's subjective here, to a CME. If there was a CME associated with it, we would see some awesome auroras here on the planet once again. Now, a lot of folks wondering, well, what's the difference between a solar flare and a CME, right? Think about this. It's not necessarily the flare level that could have effects here on Earth, but the subsequent explosion that is produced from that flare, like the CME activity, is what really can kick up the auroras here on Earth. It can damage electronic equipment, and that is the ultimate side that we have to watch there. We can have an X40 flare, and if it's directed away from Earth, we're really not going to have any effects here, aside from the radio blackout that would occur on the sunlit side of the Earth. So let's go through a little bit of the flaring activity here. There's the X8.7 that occurred here today. That, again, is the largest flare of the solar cycle. But notice the proximity here, way out on the western limb. It's almost like it's saying goodbye. Literally, we've seen numerous sunspots here. They're kind of acting weird a little bit. As soon as they get cresting out here on the western limb, they send off a departing gift, such as a large flare. This is what sunspots do, right? They produce flares. So what else is it going to do besides send off a large flare? But it was not Earth-directed, and obviously we could see it, right? That did produce an R3 level radio blackout. Now, don't get this confused with a G4, G5 class storm. That's a subsequent effect from the arrival of the CME. The radiation storm is the effects of the flaring activity literally moments later. It takes only about 7 minutes here for the effects of the flare to reach the Earth from the sun and create this radio blackout, R3 radiation level blackout. Now, the CME activity, the explosion from this X flare, takes anywhere from 48 to 72 hours to reach Earth. And that is the dense plasma cloud that creates these auroras, that creates these conditions here on Earth. And that in itself, the CME, is more dangerous than the flare. I think I had this pulled up here. There we go. So this is R5, right? R5, R4. R5, it would take a X20 or so, which we haven't seen this solar cycle. Average frequency runs about 1 per cycle, maybe even less, less than 1 per cycle. And we have not seen that yet. The worst that can happen here for an R5, Earth-directed, is a radio blackout on the entire sunlit side of the Earth, lasting for a number of hours. So radio blackout, we're talking about high-frequency radio contact with navigation systems and whatnot. GPS issues, possibly increased satellite navigation errors and positioning for several hours on the sunlit side of the Earth, which may spread into the night side. But this is not what the Carrington event was. Even though the Carrington event was a large flare, it was actually an X40 is what they're stating the Carrington event was. It was a subsequent arrival of the CME that created a lot of chaos here back in that time in the 1800s. So, even though we've seen some significant flares It is not, it's the arrival of the CME, the explosion from that would create the effects here on Earth. Now, solar radiation storms. It's similar. Let me go back here real quick here. Go back to Solar Ham. The radiation storms here, on the scale, obviously there could be some issues. Satellites may be rendered useless, and memory impacts can cause loss of control. May cause serious noise in image data, star trackers, and whatnot. Complete blackout, high frequency radio communication systems through the polar regions, and these are proton events. These are the when flares shoot off here, they send off a charged amount of protons. I don't know if you guys seen it and most of the time you can see it in a UV filter image. Let me see if I can find this here on the movie. Let's see if we see any proton events here. Give you a description of it. I don't know if we're going to see that in that one or not. Possibly. But you'll see all these little dots and stuff like that flying off from the flare in the camera view of the spacecraft. And those are charged protons. And these solar radiation storms can... where'd we go here? These solar radiation storms can definitely hit pretty hard. But mainly they affect the higher polar regions here. And that's what these are right here. But in all honesty, it's the G storms right here that can have a major effect here on the power grids. We just seen a G5 storm here. Probably a once in a lifetime event. Who knows? We could start seeing these more often. You just never know. But we got lucky, I would say. Right? Because we experienced a pretty significant G5 class storm. We've seen Auroras down to Puerto Rico. We've seen them in Southern California, all throughout the lower 48, and that doesn't happen too often, right? So I didn't hear of any power outages. I didn't hear any satellite issues. I didn't hear of any radio blackouts, any cell phones going down. There was a little bit of network congestion here going on with the space weather sites, and that was mainly, I think, because of everyone's interest in it. They're finding out what's going on here. Where's the Aurora's going to take place? So the bombardment of extra traffic to these websites slowed them down and even shut some down. But as far as it being connected to the G5 class storm, I don't think so. My internet was running full blast. I had no issues with the cell phone. Nothing with GPS conditions. So, our system is vulnerable. But even with 5 or 6 massive CMEs that hit us recently, it didn't do anything here to the planet. No elevated earthquake activity, no elevated issues that I heard of. If there is, let me know. But obviously they would show up across the news sites and YouTube. But I didn't hear anything about it. So, but this is the brunt. This is what we have to watch out for. They can be stronger. KP index is out here. They have a KP index of 9, but I'm sure there's probably been some stronger ones. And this is where you have issues with widespread voltage control problems and whatnot. That's what they say. That's what they state here. But from what I hear, we didn't have any issues with the recent storms. So what is the let me see here. Where did here we go. I was looking at a whole bunch of different informational statements here. I got a lot to cover. At the end of this video, we're going to provide the viewer sent in images here. I made a little montage here of numerous sent in images, and we'll provide that here at the end of this video as just a playback feature here. And also a recognition here of all the members. which we're doing our member drawing tomorrow. So there's literally so much stuff here to cover. And let's get back in here to the largest flare activity out here, at least in recorded history. The recorded one back in 2003, that's the looks like November 4th, 2003. There was an X28 estimated. This is from the Australian Space Weather Forecasting Center here of science, physical science and whatnot. And it's kind of actually hard to find some of these. You know, there's not a whole lot of lists out there. So the X28 is half of what the Carrington event was. That was an X40. And, you know, even though those were some pretty strong flares and stronger than what we're seeing right now, it was the subsequent effect of the explosion, that CME, that impacted Earth with such force, with such speed, and with such density that stirred up, you know, issues here on Earth at the time. So definitely some large flares can take place out here. We haven't come close to it yet. And again, we just seen the largest flare of the solar cycle today, X8.7. The last one, X6.3, back in February. Now we are expecting a peak of the solar cycle here next year, 2025, roughly June or so. I don't know why this hasn't been updated. Updated April 3rd. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if Kevin hasn't updated it or if it hasn't been updated in general. But this is only up to about March 2024. But the progression, obviously, with all these sunspots is going to put it up further on here on the graph. This is the predicted sunspot number. We're well above that. We have been all year, all cycle pretty much. And the SFI, which is the solar flux index, we're well above that as well, as far as the energy goes. But peak solar cycle here is going to be 2025. Got to watch for that because we will see some larger flares, I think, than what we're seeing right now. And got to remember, it's going to be the subsequent effect of those explosions, the CMEs, that can create issues here on Earth. Right? They're always talking about, if you look at the Carrington event on Wikipedia or whatnot, they talk about it was the most intense geomagnetic storm in recorded history, peaking from it looks like September 1st to 2nd, 1859, solar cycle 10. There was Aurora displays all over the place there in the northern hemisphere. And the geomagnetic storm itself was associated with a very bright solar flare on the 1st of September. Now, this was a rapidly quick-moving CME and explosion that got sent out from this X40 flare, and that that did some crazy damage here on the planet. And that was before we were at an electrical level where we're at right now. A geomagnetic storm of this magnitude today would cause widespread electrical disruptions, blackouts, and damage due to extended outages of the electrical power grid. Now, the Carrington event, I remember reading about it in school and stuff like that. But there has been some other larger events out there. It looks like maybe potentially an event 10 times or more the size of the Carrington event happened back in 775. An event back in 71, 76 BCE may have exceeded that event that took place back there in 775. So things are, there's a bullseye shot. These are bullseye shots out here from large major solar flares with huge subsequent eruption of plasma and dense clouds of plasma that get shot off in the Earth-directed view as a bullseye shot. And, though that's, it's possible we could see those, at any given time here. The event that we've seen recently with 5 or 6 CMEs being blasted off from a solar flare Earth-directed, multiple flares, but from a sunspot Earth-directed, is, it's it's almost like spinning a roulette wheel. You know, it's a luck shot, I guess. You know, luckily nothing happened. We got to see some awesome auroras at various latitudes out here. But there's always that potential kill shot out here that can shut things down. And, you know, it's a chance that we take out here. Obviously, the sun and the earth is going to do what it wants to do regardless of human thoughts and activity. But, you know, the potential for damage out there is there. That's for sure. It's the effects of the CME that can take place and shut us down for a little bit. There's a lot of information on here on solar flares, folks. I just wanted to cover a little bit of data on here. And again, at least here in the recorded history, X2.8 is the largest one here in recorded history. The one today, the X8.7, definitely still dwarfing. You know, we're still below this area recorded large flares here in recent history, but it can change, no doubt. So let's look at the current activity right now. We're still looking at an X flare probability of 40% chance. Proton event is still somewhat elevated here. We're looking at the charged protons there, creating the a little bit of radiation storm up there across the polar regions right now. M flare at 75% chance, C flare around 99% chance or so. Earlier today, we did see. Let's bring up this movie here again real quick and show you guys. We did see the largest flare out here, but shortly thereafter, we did see a massive explosion out here. On the eastern limb, right there. It's kind of hard to see it, but look right here. Let's see, right about here. So watch over here and then watch back over here. There's almost a explosion at the same time, right? I think right about here. Boom, right there. So two very large explosions there on the sun, both of those facing away from the earth. And so that means that there's a very active region out here. I don't know if it came off of 3682 or something maybe further behind that. Potentially could have came off 3682. Kind of hard to tell. But looking at the magnetogram image here, there is quite a bit of complexity within the sunspot. And if you look here, the earth-facing side of the sun is, goodness, it's cluttered with multiple large sunspots out here. And some of them do harbor the potential for some stronger flaring. Maybe this area up here, a region around here looking a little bit more complex. Down here as well. This area looks fairly complex as well. So there's numerous areas out there on the sun, the earth-facing side of the sun, that we'll have to watch that harbor. Looks like mainly beta gamma class magnetic structures, a couple alpha and beta in there as well. But we'll watch that in the days ahead. But you know, the visible disk here doesn't show anything like what we had seen here recently with 3664, which is way out on the western limb. We can't even see it anymore. But maybe here in the after a couple weeks or so, we'll see the return of that sunspot. I don't know if it's going to give us any activity or not, but we'll definitely watch that. As far as any Aurora forecast goes, doesn't look like we got much in the forecast. Just very minimal conditions here over the next couple nights. The current Aurora oval shows just very slim chances up there across the extreme higher latitudes of seeing the auroras. Everything pretty quiet down here across the area for now. Lot of chat here about the Hikurangi subduction zone there across the New Zealand area. There's actually quite a few articles out here on this area of the Hikurangi, and it is a major subduction zone area, and they've been putting out a little bit of news articles here recently. I'm wondering if there's thinking that maybe something might pop out here with all the deeper activity triggered underneath North Island here recently. Using a 9.1 Hikurangi earthquake and tsunami as its planning scenario is a very catastrophic event. There's actually a video put out here on YouTube about it. If you want to check it out, I'll provide the link here to the nzherald.co.New Zealand site to check it out. But these guys are they're definitely putting a little bit of fear out here. A lot of catastrophic numbers in terms of casualties and whatnot. Same with the GeoNet servers out here. These guys talking about the potential of seeing at least a 25% probability of a major earthquake on the southern section of the Hikurangi subduction zone beneath the Wellington area in the next 50 years. So these guys obviously thinking that potentially this area could see a 9.0 earthquake in this region here in the future. It's a major area. The Hikurangi subduction zone area down in New Zealand has been seeing quite a bit of deeper activity here recently. The latest earthquake here does show that's a 5.1 up along the Kermadec Trench, but there was a 4.4 here early this morning underneath North Island. But generally, there's been a lot of deep activity underneath this area. USGS only going to show 4.0 and above for this area, but there's been hundreds of deep earthquakes up here, indicating that the strain is building up here across the Hikurangi subduction zone. It's definitely something to watch. Definitely something of concern. Any major subduction zone is capable of producing some significant life changes out here, and ultimately we have to be prepared for that. Over into the Hawaii area, things rocking and rolling out here underneath the Pahala area. The latest quake, a 3.4, 27 kilometers deep underneath this area. Haven't really seen any noticeable change out here across the area of the Kilauea volcano. The latest informational statement here put out from the USGS states that the volcano is still at a yellow and advisory. Let's go check out the latest information here from the folks here and see what they're chatting about. This update was put out today. The volcano is currently not erupting, and the elevated earthquake activity is still elevated. Really no change going on here. The inflation data, the deformation underneath the ground here, shows continued inflation. And as you can see here, we're above the previous level. This is the last 30 days here. Let me blow this up a little bit. Notice the stair-stepping ladder event going on here. That's obviously a sign of some inflation, followed up by a little bit of deflation or stationary event. But things are getting inflated quite rapidly out here across the area, and we're at our highest spot here since about the 2018 eruption. So things are continuing to get interesting out here across the area. Southern California off the coast here of Oceanside at 2.1. Getting a little bit of concerning activity here along the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. Well, just off that area along the Brawley seismic zone. Now, this wouldn't be that big of a deal if we hadn't seen what's been going on here over the last couple days. Let me show you guys here. Last couple days here, we've noticed, you guys remember that big time earthquake swarm here south of the border? Ignore the border, ignore the state line, ignore the country line. This plate boundary is what counts. Borders do not count to this. So this activity stirring up down here off the Imperial Fault, the plate boundary, extending here further north recently near the Brawley seismic zone. Now it's even further north, much closer here to the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. And that branch right there, a Big Bend area southward into this region, is capable of producing an 8.1 earthquake. That's not fear-mongering. That is just the facts, ma'am. That is just the facts. And watch these little earthquake swarms here. And this is what I'm always chatting about. Watch for migration. And look, the migration is working its way up north today. That's where we're seeing the current ongoing activity within the last couple hours here, just on the Brawley seismic zone. Now, whether that's in the triggering zone or not remains to be seen. Either way, it's something to watch, right? Because of all the elevated activity out here recently across the area south of the border. And, yeah, you know, this area can only remain quiet for so long. It hasn't seen a full rupture in over 300 years. So that tells me right here, you know, any kind of, you know, maybe even Bigfoot walking across the plate boundary could trigger the earthquake activity out here. You just never know. Someone traveling through the canyons, enjoying some, I don't know, bass, Kenny G bass, I don't know, any kind of bass could trigger an earthquake. Probably not likely. What it's going to take is the migration of activity here and some larger earthquake activity around this region, and that could ultimately create a domino effect out there. So watch this area. That's obviously a little bit concerning because regional stress has been quite high out here against the area. Northern California pretty quiet aside from some typical movement, a little bit of activity along the Macama fault zone. That's a coastal range fault here, 3.1. Up into the Pacific Northwest, a handful of earthquakes there across Mount Rainier. It looks a little bit more active than what it does than it did this morning. Goodness, just west here of the crater area. So I'm kind of curious about that. Let's go see what's going on here from the trimmer map. Volcanic seismicity, Mount Rainier. That earthquake activity stirring up there at the summit region. About looks like a kilometer or so just below the surface. Some of these fault systems or some of these seismograph stations not active, but we'll have to use what we can. I think this one up here is active. The one component short period station should be working here. That is working. There's a couple earthquakes right here, as you can see. A couple more in there as well. You guys see all those? It almost looks like some of those smaller quakes in there could be some type of earthquake swarm that's stirring up out here across the area as well. With the earthquake activity being just about a mile or so below the summit on the western flank, this almost looks like it could be stress related. Volcanic activity is going to start a little bit deeper underneath the area. But no doubt, you know, about 13 earthquakes out here in the last 24 hours. Nothing big. These are all roughly below the 1.0 magnitude. A 1.4 there, the largest in the sequence of earthquakes. But we'll watch that. Mount St. Helens seeing a smaller amount of earthquake activity out there as well. Throughout Yellowstone National Park, Super Volcano looks pretty quiet. And let's go double check here, make sure. I am freezing in here. Got a new AC here in the computer room, and it is cold. So I gotta try and make this quick, or else you guys are gonna hear me chattering my teeth here pretty soon. Earthquake activity fairly non-existent out here. As far as local activity goes, now this movement here almost looks like a distant quake away from the area. Let me see what we got out there. I'm not for sure if that's a Texas earthquake or what, but it does look like it's distant. I'm kind of talking about this reading right here. The promontory picked it up as well. Looks like some far away earthquake activity, but it did show up here across the Holmes Hill station. So a few hours ago. Not for sure exactly where that's at though. Texas seen a large earthquake activity down here. Just some 2s and 3s, but that normally won't stay up or won't show up out here across Yellowstone. Was it this one? 2.1? I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe they haven't popped it up here on the list yet, but a little bit of distant earthquake activity occurring away from Yellowstone. New Madrid seismic zone, a 2.3 early this morning, and quite a bit of oil fields getting hit out here in the area of Texas recently. today as well. 3.0 and a 2.9. This area definitely riddled with a large amount of oil fields out here, folks. I don't have to zoom in too far, but is that one directly underneath it? These are oil pads out here, a lot of pumps and whatnot. We could pull this up on Google Earth and check it out, but I don't think I need to do that. The name out here, lots of names out here explain what's going on in terms of the oil field frequency out there. But that's an interesting earthquake out there, the new Madrid seismic zone 2.3. Not a whole lot here across the eastern portion of the country, but I'm guessing the way things are kind of migrating here inland away from the plate boundary, we could see things stir up out here against the Appalachian Mountains, further maybe into New Jersey as well. Could watch for some further earthquake activity up there along the east coast. Okay, I think I know what that Yellowstone reading was. That makes sense. That's about 4 hours ago. Could that be that one? 22. Oh, maybe 4. That's a little bit longer though. I don't know. There was a decent earthquake down here. It could have been this one that showed up. A 5.6 in Puerto Rico. Very close here to the Puerto Rico Trench. This is actually one of the larger quakes here that we've seen in recent activity. Most of the movement here has been very small below that level, so a decent sized quake. There's all the microquake activity out here happening recently, but that 5-pointer came in as a 5.2, got downgraded to a 4.9, stuck there for a little bit, and then got raised up to a 5.6. That is quite a dynamic range of magnitudes there that the computer system stuck out. Now these guys are actually forecasting an aftershock forecast. I don't know if you can forecast an aftershock forecast along a major subduction zone such as the Puerto Rico Trench, but they're putting it out here that according to the USGS forecast, a chance of at least one aftershock within the next week is 77% in M3.0. But look at this here. Now tell me, is there not a chance of seeing a 3-pointer out here? This is the all magnitudes. Here's 2.5. Look how many 3-pointers have occurred out here in the region. So, I think that's a little irrelevant to state that there might be a 3-pointer out there with a 77% chance there. 4-pointer at a 28% chance. I don't know what these guys are doing here, but an M7, less than 1% chance. Got to remember this area here of Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rico Trench, is very capable of producing a megaquake out here. I did a couple different study videos here on this region, and it definitely has potential out there. So we'll watch it. It is about 7 kilometers deep here, just around the Mono Trough area outside the Mono Seamount region. But as you can see, earthquake activity here has been prevalent with a lot of movement quakes here recently. Just this one sticks out as a little bit larger. And it does kind of make sense here because recently we have been seeing, over the last few days or so, elevated earthquake activity here across the Middle America Trench. We did see that 6.4, right? About 75 kilometers deep just a couple days ago. So the squeeze has been on out here across the Caribbean plate. And the squeeze in itself is due to the subduction zone area, and not only that, but you got the North American plate, the South America region, all these areas putting a squeeze here on this little Caribbean plate. That's going to be this region right here where the Puerto Rico area sits at. And with all the activity there along the Middle America Trench here, this is not surprising to see somewhat elevated earthquake activity here recently. Alaska, minimal activity at best. The rest of the globe here, I know we covered a lot on space weather activity, but that's the other thing. I mean, we've seen one 6.4 here in the last couple days with all this bombardment of huge space weather activity. No megaquake, no large earthquake activity. It's crazy, right? Absolutely crazy. So the theory of that, is that space weather activity, the subsequent CME activity, would elevate earthquake movement and create large earthquakes out here, trigger large earthquakes, and that has not happened whatsoever. So that is a flat zero in this book here that I'm keeping tallies on. But we'll watch the next one, right? We'll definitely watch the next event and see what happens. But let's see here. A little bit of activity stirring up out here in the western Turkey area. Looks like they've seen a 4.2. Some other smaller quakes out there as well, but really not a whole lot triggering for now. The Iceland area. This is another region of some heightened activity here recently, and man, it's looking more likely that this area is seeing a little bit more potential of seeing the eruption down here. Let me bring up the all magnitudes. Now this is going to be the extreme, very small microquakes in there as well, with the negative magnitudes on their scale. This is going to be the unfelt ones, obviously. Extremely small microquakes. 139 of them out here, it looks like, across the entire Iceland area. But we got to look for concentrations here and potentially see where things are going to stir up next in terms of the next fissure eruption out here across Iceland. And I've been noticing a little bit more southward activity, a little bit more westward here around the Lagafell area as well. The Blue Lagoon area and the power plant sit up here. Things look quiet up here for now across that area for earthquake activity, but noticing a definite migration here across Grindavik and the area just to the northwest. So we'll have to watch that. Obviously that is of concern. And this area is well inflated in terms of the magma accumulation underneath this area. It could go any time. All right, Storm Prediction Center out here. There's not a whole lot going on for severe weather. I mean, it's these guys are stretching it here. Day 4, maybe a severe chance here. 15% chance across Louisiana and the Mississippi area. But we'll watch that. And see how things go. Real quick, before I do the Aurora viewer sent in images, I want to give a quick shout out to all our members here real quick. I know it's going to be it's a little extensive video, but hey, we don't do it too often. But I do want to recognize all the members out here that have been long-standing members here of this channel. We're doing the member drawing here tomorrow for Wednesday. We'll be giving away some prizes live, and we'll go over those once we do go live tomorrow. Sue, one of the most recent members out here to join on the channel. Thank you very much there. Elizabeth Warman has been with the channel here for 13 months. Thank you very much for rejoining. Jess, Gabrielle, Zachary, Michelle Farmer, 9 months. Thank you very much for rejoining here 3 days ago. Lady Bug, 3 days ago. Thanks for jumping in. Praveen, 1 month. Darren Johnson, 1 month. Terry Phillips, Thomas72Z. Del M, Diecast. I'm Jesse02, 3 months. Thanks for rejoining. Harlita Javika, a super fan here, 11 months. Thank you for rejoining there about 4 days ago. John, 4 days. Greg Bennett. Kathy Pike. Sharni T, 6 months. Connor Bowles, 3 months. Bob Champ, 25 days. Thanks for joining in there, Bob. Barbara Young. Evelyn Stanley, 29 days. Purple Bullet, long-standing member here of the channel. Thanks for rejoining there a month ago. 20 months, goodness. Violet Storm, 2 months. Kenneth Smith, 6 months. Good Oak Press, 2 months. Kathy Doan, another long-term member here. Jay Fuentes, 347 as well, one of our longest standing members here on the channel. 23 months. Alice Hess, 2 months. Goodness. That's a stumper. But hey, we're pointing this out here. Verwolf here, super fan, 4 months. Andrew Harmsworth, 4 months as well. Big Island, 3 months as well. Goodness. I'm getting stumped here a little bit. 2 months here for this member, super fan. Steve, 2 months. Home, 2 months. Nancy Kozlowski, 21 months. Beth Lucy Maker, ADHD, established 19 SE, 6 months. Albert Sanchez Jr., thank you very much, Albert, for being a long-standing member here of this channel. 23 months, coming up on 2 years already. Goodness. Linda L., 14 months here for Superfan. Tony Miller, and this member as well, 4 months. Amanda Little, 12 months. Maria Park, long-standing member as well, 22 months. Someone, 15 months there. Who could that someone be? I know. If I have to click on their channel to get their name. But Helen Horn, 16 months. Hope and Feathers, 22 months. Trish M., I Am Valentina. Kay Clark. Rick, 8 months. Laura Bonnet, 17 months there. Robert H., Jeannie Baker, Angela Willock, Bitter Harvest, MST Pair, Genevra Freeland, The Dot Hacker. I write these guys' names down every single month for the drawing, so it's I'm recognizing all of these. Rob, 52, 23 months. Goodness, thank you very much. Alan Gressick, 13 months. Clayton, 19 months there. Appreciate it, Clayton. Hurricane Heather, a longtime member as well, 20 months. Janice Seiler, Juno James, Mike Moses, Joycelyn Burzik, Betty Kelly, Debash Mode, 21 months already. Some of these guys here have been committed without any breaks out here whatsoever. Joelle Kozlowski, goodness, 21 months as well. Pamela Conley, Ray Annington, Robert Kozlowski, 23 months. 23 months of uninterrupted membership out here. We appreciate every single one of you guys out here. So we're looking at a total standing right now of about 75 members, and this could go up overnight. Obviously, if you want to be entered into the drawing tomorrow, we'll need you to jump on board here for the member drawing. Membership levels are, I don't know if they've enabled it on mobile devices yet, but I think you have to go on to a desktop, and then from there click the join button on my channel, and then you can pick a level that you wish to join in on and go from there. A little bit of activity stirring up down here in the Pacific Antarctica Ridge. That came in just after the New Zealand activity. That's kind of interesting there. Not for sure why that's in the red here. But we'll continue to watch things, folks, and see how it plays out. All right, so let's leave you guys here with the auroras here by the viewers sent in. I'm just going to go ahead and put this into motion here and see what we got. Beautiful shot there from Missouri. Now, this is from a couple nights ago. Beautiful shot up there in Oregon, Southwest Virginia, Colorado. A little bit of activity out there on the horizon. West Texas, look at that. That's beautiful. Laura Bonnet, a beautiful aurora streaming in with the pillars. Beautiful colors. I love this power station view there in Southern California. Absolutely stunning. Good eye there. Shot there from the UK. There's another shot there of the power station. Absolutely stunning. I had to throw that in there. Fresno, look at that. Beautiful. New Zealand checking in with that beautiful activity. Alabama. Who would have thought? Robert, you forgot to leave your location there. But beautiful images. Missouri. France. Tennessee. Goodness. Ireland, even. That's some beautiful colors out there. And Scotland. some beautiful images, folks. I appreciate you guys sending those in. And there's quite a bit more, but man, it takes a lot of time to put together a little montage of videos or pictures, and the locations and names here. So I put together a few of them, but I did enjoy every single one that everyone else sent in, and I appreciate it. It was pretty awesome to see all the pictures out there that everyone got to see. It was definitely a once in a lifetime experience here, and we just never know. We could see that fire up again. All it takes is being at the right spot at the right time with a good Earth-directed CME. Now, remember these flares here, right? The flaring activity can stir up proton events. It can also stir up radiation storms. But for the most part, that's not going to be what stirs up the auroras or what may trigger some other Earth technical issues here. It's a CME. It's the arrival of the dense plasma cloud that can have damaging effects on the Earth, but also produce the beautiful CMEs here. So we'll continue to watch it here, folks. Again, really nothing major in the forecast, even though we had that huge X flare that was off the western limb out here and not Earth directed. I don't know if it produced a CME or not, but obviously it's not going to be headed in our direction. Let's see. I think I covered everything. I just had a lot to cover here, folks. So sorry for making this a super duper long video. I mean, we're coming up on 50 minutes here, so normally try to keep it around 20 minutes or less. But there was just so much to cover. We'll continue to watch a few areas out here. It does seem like Southern California has been ramping up here a little bit more in the last couple hours with all the adjustment taking place out here around the Pacific Plate recently. So keep an eye on SoCal. Obviously, this is the main area of concern here, the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. And that migration, I've been watching it here for the last couple days here. If you've been watching my videos, it shows a little pattern of larger earthquake activity here. Swarms starting up here, and now swarms starting up around the Brawley seismic zone. And, it may just end there, but what's it going to take to trigger that big one? You just never know. So we got to keep an eye on these little events because they can lead to something much bigger. Have a good night, folks. I'm out of here. We'll catch you guys back out here for the Thursday morning update. Take care.